The Odyssey, an epic from ancient Greece. Let's start by talking about a little background. The Odyssey is a story of a hero that makes a journey to get back home after war. This hero's name is Odysseus, and that's why the story is called the Odyssey. When we hear the word Odyssey now, it often refers to a journey. That's because this story is famous. It's so famous that it was told and passed down orally through generations. People would sit around the fire at night telling stories to each other, and the Odyssey was a popular story. Around 750 BC, Homer wrote his interpretation of the story of Odysseus. Homer is credited with the story today because it's his version that we read. The story takes place in ancient Greece. Greece is a country in Europe that's surrounded by water. Most of Odysseus's travel happens over water. What we'll see as we read is how Odysseus overcomes challenges on his journey. What's really interesting about the Odyssey is Homer's style. So the story is very adventurous, but there's also ways that Homer uses words, which is called Homer's style, that makes the poem such a famous poem. It's a narrative poem. Narrative means it's a story. It has a plot line. And poem has rhythm to the language. So it makes sense that the story would use poetry as its language because we listen to it. And poetry with rhythm sounds good to our ears. You'll also see as part of Homer's style that the gods and goddesses play a leading role in the story. They are the important characters, and they determine everything. You'll also notice epithets. Those are long strings of descriptions to name a person or a god. Every time that Homer talks about the morning, he refers to dawn as a thing. So dawn means sunrise in English, but we see that Homer describes sunrise as the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn. That makes us visualize the sun rays as if they're pinkish, orangish fingers coming up over the earth. Another example of an epithet is Father, son of Saturn, king of kings. So in ancient Greece, the gods have Greek names, but we also see that the Odyssey was translated by the Romans, and we'll see in other versions Roman names. So Saturn is the name of a Roman god, but the versions we'll read will be Greek. More about Homer's style. Homer writes the Odyssey in media res, which means that the plot begins in the middle of the chronological story. It begins in the middle of things. So in the middle of things, we meet Odysseus, and he is being asked to tell how he got there. So then we have a flashback. The story jumps back in time, in chronological time, to catch us up to where Odysseus is now. You can contrast that to a typical story, which uses a story arc. The exposition is the beginning. It introduces the characters and setting. Then, in chronological order, we have rising action. The character overcomes challenges. There's conflicts that have to be overcome until finally we reach the climax, which is the turning point of the story. There's a revelation. The character learns something new, has a transformation, and then all of the loose ends are tied until we get to the resolution, the end, and hopefully a happy ending. But with Homer's style of the Odyssey, instead of this traditional or typical story arc, we'll find that he begins in the middle of things. So he begins right here, and then Odysseus has to go back and introduce us to the characters and the settings that were part of his journey and all the challenges he overcame to get to this point. The Odyssey is an epic. Epic means a certain type of story that follows a certain pattern. The pattern is called an archetype. So the Odyssey follows the epic archetype. The epic archetype has a hero. The epic character is, or the epic hero is the main character. This main character is wise, mentally superior than others, and strong, physically superior to others. And in an epic, the hero goes on a journey, and this journey is sometimes called a quest. Let's talk a little bit more about the hero's journey, because this is a very specific archetype. And if you can learn the pattern of the hero's journey, it will make not only reading the Odyssey easier, but anytime you come to an epic, you'll already know the pattern. You'll already know the plot structure. So first, the first thing we have is a hero. And the hero is given a reason to leave. The reason the hero has to leave is normally that something's wrong, or the hero is told by a supernatural mentor that something needs to be done. So then the hero goes on his quest. The supernatural mentor helps him on his quest to overcome challenges and trials. But then the hero reaches a low point, and this low point is an abyss, a dark place. In some stories, it's even hell. At this point, we don't think that the main character or the hero is going to make it, and the hero himself isn't sure that he's going to make it. But through help, either by the supernatural mentor or other helpers, the hero has a revelation, some new knowledge that makes him change and transform into the hero he's meant to be, where he then returns home and restores order to the problem. He solves the problem. He overcomes the conflict, and he's rewarded. Everything is restored. There's peace. There's harmony. And normally the hero is given some sort of leadership role. And we realize that the real reason the hero went on the quest is to save his people. But if the hero would have been told that at the beginning, he might not have had the courage to even begin. So far, we know that the hero has to overcome many conflicts or challenges or trials in order to prove himself. We know in literature there are typically 4 different types of conflicts, so we can look for these different kinds of conflicts in a story. When we know what to look for, then we can analyze literature. When we analyze literature, we can find the theme or what the author is trying to tell us about life. When we read literature, that's what we do. We analyze it, we break it down into its parts so that we understand the author's bigger message. And we also look at literature as a piece of art. How did the author create this work? And how do these pieces fit together to make a whole in an artistic way? So the 4 types of conflicts are human versus self. This is an internal struggle. The person or the hero or the main character may be struggling with self-confidence, not believing in herself or not believing in himself. It could be human versus human, like a physical fight. It could be human versus society. The person wants things to be different. It could be a cultural battle of sorts. And human versus nature, such as overcoming a storm. We'll see all of these types of conflicts in the Odyssey. So as you're reading, keep in mind these different kind of conflicts. And when you see them, you can analyze them. You can break them apart in order to put them back together to make the whole, the message about life. I hope you enjoy reading the Odyssey. I think it's a really good story. And I'm not the only one. Many people around the world have read the Odyssey for centuries and centuries and enjoyed it. Let the adventure begin.